what are some of the distinctions between, let's say, like a judo fall, or a Aikido fall, and a traditional Systema fall? Basic. Yeah, a lot of times, one of the things we say is that the Russians will prioritize a crucifix roll, arm out, whereas a lot of the Asian styles prioritize, not that they don't teach the others, but prioritize a diagonal. And again, diagonal in, why does that make sense? Why is that used a lot like judo? Well, why are they rolling? Or why are they being thrown? Somebody's got them by the arm, right? Yeah. So if somebody's got you by the arm, and they throw you, arm's going to be in. Doesn't matter. Systema master, grab my arm, Ippon Satnagi, arm's going to be in. That's the reality, right? Don't believe it. Look at Rutinsky's work. He's a Sambo master, 6-dan in judo. They do a lot of arm in rolling too, right? Because guy grabs you by the arm, throws you by. It's hard midway to say, oh, and it doesn't happen. So what they're training for, Gaishu, Ippon Satnagi, that's where you're going to be. So that's why they do it a lot. That's reason number one. Why does a Systema guy, why do they traditionally, Cossacks, why do they have the arms out? Right, traditionally swords, shaskas, right, and then getting up to guns and knives, right? So none of those are great around the groin. Most people don't go, wow, put it in. Right? So you put them out, this way you can still use them as a roll. That's basic reason, and that's the justification. That being said, we always say in Systema we have 4 types of rolls, right? We have the arm is crucifix roll, I have a forward roll, sometimes called the sword roll, I have a cross roll like this, and then we have the inside or diagonal. All 4 should be taught. We just prioritize the crucifix roll, because the bulk of our time we're not focusing a lot on throws. But if I don't teach inside and diagonal, and I'm teaching throws, something's going to collide with something else. Saturday, it's a throwing seminar. We will prioritize those rules. Not today. Today it's more about mobility and health. So that's reason number 1 why we do it. What distinctions and differences does it make? So you said, judo guys?
Well, it distributes the force over a longer portion of the body going here.
Which does?
The crucifix.
Yeah. One of the things that happens, everybody says, well, the Japanese guys slap. Well, the Systema guys will touch the floor too. We won't. I took traditional jiu-jitsu a long time. We did not slap. It was battlefield. We did not slap. Hands went out. And they did a lot of our basic rolls were like this at the beginning, was sliding. When we rolled over, we didn't have that kind of a sportive aspect. When we landed on our feet because they were assuming you had katanas. If you have swords on your body, you get thrown like this. You don't want to break it. So they would fall like this, right? It's not Druidic, it's not great, but you're getting thrown. Life sucks. You got 2 swords, you don't want to break them. It's going to suck worse, right? The notion of the slap came more in the mid-1800s, 1880s, Aikido, Judo, that kind of stuff. So it's more tatami environment. But to say that all traditional martial arts from Asia slap, it's not at all true. Wushu, even though that was fairly sportive, even though it was done on mats, they don't really slap, they slide. They still kept the traditional base. So that's mistake number 1. The big difference is spinal alignment. When you go diagonal, it is harder to avoid the spine. And if that's all I'm teaching, I mean, you guys, if anybody who's done traditional Japanese arts, they often teach go down, cradle the baby, go through, whatever the case is. When I go through on a diagonal, if you notice here I'm on my right shoulder, but generally most people go onto the notch of the spine and then rotate pretty much on the spine and then fall sideways. And so the bulk of that, the apex of their force is on the spine. A lot of people do the crucifix roll and they imitate the aesthetic of it, but they're not doing it for the right reason. And the real reason we do the crucifix roll is because I want to avoid the spine. So I should be making like a 7 shape or an L shape upside down. I should be starting on one shoulder, going across to the other, and then coming down the side. That's how I dissipate my force. There's very good videos. You see Kadashnikov, he always uses a staff to show where the force is, but I should be spinning around. And as it gets softer, it becomes more like a question mark. Brzezinski calls it the question mark theory. You should go around. But I'm avoiding L4, L5 entirely. So as you do your work now, you have your long side. That's what touches first. See here what I can do with my head. If you have to put your head on the floor for balance, it's going to be tenser and it's going to be hard here. That's all right. You got to get through it. But as you want to improve that, you have to address that tension first. Right? Because when you're grappling, if you don't know how to resolve that and somebody compresses you, you're in trouble right away. If the ground's already causing you trouble, it's going to be worse. So when I get to that point, see how I'm able to move my head here. Develop that strength so that I'm able to not necessarily touch it. Just this, if I do touch it, see how I can take the pressure off my neck, keep it just a bit up so that I can move with some degree of freedom and come down the other side. That's key, right? For the roll, that's key for making it optimal. So it should be one side, one shoulder, switching onto the other and coming back as smoothly as you can, right? And a lot of you will do it and right away say, oh God, I was not doing that. But that's the essence. That's what, when you go home to do your homework, that's your goal.